Hi everybody, it's Kristin again, and this is week 5 of our stay-at-home story time. I've got Molly here with me today. She is curled up here, giving me the stink eye because I'm bothering her. She's already worn herself out for the day, or at least for the morning. The book that I am going to read to you from this week is Into Thin Air by Jon Krakauer. The reason I chose the book is because the disaster on Mount Everest that's recounted in this book happened on May 10th of 1996. So, and the kind of the fallout of it was going on through the week after that. So this is kind of the anniversary of the incident. If you've seen the movie Everest with Jake Gyllenhaal and Josh Brolin, then you've seen a recounting of the disaster. Krakauer's book is considered to be one of the best on the subject. He wrote it in a sense as a confessional, because when he went up there, he was going to write an article for Outside Magazine, which he did when he got back, but because it was compressed for space, there was a lot that he had to leave out, and he really felt that what happened he couldn't do it justice. So here's a little bit from the first chapter about him descending, or trying to descend, from the summit of Everest after he made the top. As I began my descent, I was extremely anxious, but my concern had little to do with the weather. A check of the gauge on my oxygen tank had revealed that it was almost empty. I needed to get down fast. After leaving the summit, 15 minutes of cautious shuffling over a 7,000-foot abyss brought me to the notorious Hillary Step, a pronounced notch in the ridge that demands some technical maneuvering. As I clipped into a fixed rope and prepared to rappel over the lip, I was greeted with an alarming sight. 30 feet below, more than a dozen people were queued up at the base of the step. 3 climbers were already in the process of hauling themselves up the rope that I was preparing to descend. Exercising my only option, I unclipped from the communal safety line and stepped aside. Andy Harris, who'd left the summit shortly after I did, soon pulled up behind me. Wanting to conserve whatever oxygen remained in my tank, I asked him to reach inside my backpack and turn off the valve on my regulator, which he did. For the next 10 minutes, I felt surprisingly good. My head cleared. I actually seemed less tired than I had with the gas turned on. Then abruptly I sensed that I was suffocating. My vision dimmed, and my head began to spin. I was on the brink of losing consciousness. Instead of turning my oxygen off, Harris, in his hypoxically impaired state, had mistakenly cranked the valve open to full flow, draining the tank. I'd just squandered the last of my gas, going nowhere. There was another tank waiting for me at the south summit, 250 feet below, but to get there, I would have to descend the most exposed terrain on the entire route without the benefit of supplemental oxygen. And first, I had to wait for the mob to disperse. It was after 3 o'clock when I made it down to the south summit. By now, tendrils of mist were streaming over the 27,923-foot top of Lhotse and lapping at Everest's summit pyramid. No longer did the weather look so benign. I grabbed a fresh oxygen cylinder, jammed it onto my regulator, and hurried down into the gathering cloud. Moments after I'd dropped below the south summit, it began to snow lightly, and visibility went to hell. 400 vertical feet above, where the summit was still washed in bright sunlight under an immaculate cobalt sky, my compadres dallied to memorialize their arrival at the apex of the planet, unfurling flags and snapping photos, using up precious ticks of the clock. None of them imagined that a horrible ordeal was drawing nigh. Nobody suspected that by the end of that long day, every minute would matter. And up until, I think it was 2017, 16, thereabouts, this incident was the worst disaster to happen on Everest. In total, there were 13 deaths during that climbing period. I think it was 7 during this single storm. The guides, the leaders of 2 of the main expeditions, both died. There were some climbers that died. There was at least 1 Sherpa that died. So this is a book that shows not only what you need to go through, what you need to be prepared to suffer, essentially, if you want to tackle something like this, But also a little bit it goes into the kind of people who feel compelled or pulled to do something like this. One of the casualties is a man named Doug Hansen, who died in his third attempt to summit Everest. He was determined to get there, and he paid for it with his life. So this is a pretty serious undertaking. The book is just riveting. It really gets you into the heart of what happens. It was done with plenty of interviews, plenty of research, going back, verifying accounts with other people. So it's one that I recommend to people quite often when they're looking for a book about the outdoors. So that's the book for this week. If you would like to support your Aggies and purchase from us, you can go to our website. There'll be a link down in the comments. You can also email the store. We have limited pickup hours on our website, or we can mail it out to you. And for now, everybody, please stay safe, wash your hands, and we'll see you next week.